Welcome back to this edition of Performing at Your Best. In video number 210, the last one, we talked about speaking, public speaking, formal speaking, giving an interview, giving a toast at a wedding is a performance. I want to extend that notion that writing is a performance as well. You're connecting with yourself, with the moment, and you're also creating things. And there's some things to do, not only to ensure more effective and consistent writing, that output, but also what happens when you encounter a block in your writing. Way back in 1978, when I was starting to carve out this notion of performance psychology, I was working with athletes, traditional athletes and non-traditional athletes as well. The first non-athletes I ever worked with back then were people taking tests, the big tests for law school or medical school, which was very stressful. I worked with pageant contestants, if you would imagine. Then when I was at the university, I started working with writers. The building right next to the building I worked in had the English department, and some professors start sending their students to me that were having problems with their writing. They encountered some kind of blocks. Then some graduate students came to me, and then a couple of the professors themselves came to me when they were experiencing writer's blocks. So I started finding ways, and I started seeing that some of the ways athletes dealt with adversity were the same ways that these writers can deal with the adversity of a writing block. And here's the key thing that I discovered along the way. It is not writer's block. It is a writing block. Just a change in that word means all the difference. I have found that sometimes writers would take their blocks so seriously and put themselves down for it, that I'm a useless writer, I'll never amount to anything, and I might as well give up. They personalize it way too much. There are ebbs and flows to every kind of performance, just like there are ebbs and flows in writing. Occasionally, that flow will end in a dead end and having some kind of blockage. So it is not so much a writer's block as it is a writing block. Distance yourself from yourself in the piece. Of course, we're so involved in what we write. We think so much of ourself is put into that. Yes, rightfully so. But when you come to a block, do not personalize it. Do not catastrophize it. Is learn how to say it's just a writing block. It will work its way out. I will find my way around this. Just by retitling a writing block means all the world to overcoming it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you some of my secrets that you may know or may not know about how to get the most out of your writing as a performance, and then what to do when you encounter a writing block. If you are interested at all, I made a handout for my students on this, and if you email me at my name all together in lower caps, tomkubistant@gmail.com, I'll email it back to you as an attachment. So it's Tom Kubistant, Kubistant, all lowercase, at gmail.com. And just say, give me the writing article, and I will email that back to you. Okay. Because sometimes what I'm going to share with you may make sense, or you may be taking your own notes about it and not hearing the next thing I was going to be saying. So feel free to replay this tape, or feel free to contact me for a handout on it. So let's talk about some things. Time pressure exacerbates writing blocks. That means you have to give yourself plenty of time to write the piece. Even though there may be a deadline for the piece, many of us, after a while, when we're creating something new, don't perform well when there is a deadline. It might have worked when you're in high school. It won't work when you're creating something new on your computer of writing. So give yourself plenty of time to do that. Uh, Depending on your own writing style, make sure when you ask for help, many people have writing issues or writing doubts when they ask for people's help in editing it way too soon. When I would be writing regularly a major piece, I would only ask for somebody's help at the end of the piece after I've gone through about 3 or 4 editing cycles with it. Some people hear feedback and they don't know how to integrate that feedback into their writing. So make sure you only ask for help, and you may never ask for help during the last parts of the piece. Remember this essential principle. You are serving the reader by your writing. Excuse me. You are not, even if you're an expert, don't show it or put pressure on yourself to be the expert. Stay humble. It shows in your writing. Creativity in all types of writing is carving out pieces and putting them together like a puzzle. This is important, especially when you're editing. Editing is almost as intuitive, isn't it, as it is technical. You will sometimes feel that you've got the wrong word in there, or feel that something's missing, or you're not expressing yourself well. Listen to your intuitions, and it's like putting together pieces of a puzzle together. You will know when you found the right piece when it seems to release you and keep you back on track. Having said that, there is no such thing as a perfect piece of writing. The people who strive to make it perfect never complete it. The people who strive and expect this piece should be a masterpiece never complete it. Sheryl Sandberg said, done is better than perfect. So when you do something, be happy with what you've achieved. Sometimes I've talked to writers who went back to their earlier pieces from a year or 2 or 5 years before, and they laugh, saying, I would do it totally different this time. Certainly were. You're a totally different person and writer than you were when you wrote that piece. Done is better than perfect. Even though it seems to be sometimes a mechanical process, make sure you become genuinely excited about the piece, that you're throwing yourself into, saying, this is something I need to express. And so become genuinely excited about the piece. It's been said in health that prevention's the best cure. Same thing with your creative writing, whether it's writing fiction or nonfiction or doing some kind of business writing. The more you can prevent you getting bogged down in some quagmire of a dead end, then you can keep on coming to your strengths in your writing. Here are some things. When you're ready to write, do it regularly. Do it as a habit. If you're doing journaling or writing notes about a piece or a future piece, do that regularly. Strong and clear writing emerges from the consistency and diligently writing on a regular basis. Nextly, if you're planning to do something, you can do it by an outline, or you can do it as a mind map. Some people like to mind map something where it's non-linear, and you start putting it back up on a whiteboard and saying, this is connected to this, and oh, that may be an extension of that. Have fun with the planning process, but use the right part of your brains to do it. I like to linearly write out my outline. Other people just love to draw pictures or representations, or indeed mind map. Here's one good way to make sure you're on the right course on a piece, is to write out the ending, maybe even writing out the ending first, so you know when you've achieved it. The ending also has a direction you're taking with the rest of the piece. So if nothing else, outline or detail the ending of the piece. One thing it took me a long while to figure out is that my first drafts of something were garbage. Anticipate that. Almost in every new writing session, say that my first writing is going to be garbage. Yes, I will be editing it down the line. Put something down. Don't be fearful or expecting that you need to put down the perfect piece in the perfect order on the first writing of it. Accept that the process is like making a painting or making a sculpture. You have to keep on refining it. Along with that, I found out that editing is creative unto itself. Some people think editing is drudgery. No, it's a creative process unto itself. Approach it as a unique process of itself. Now that you have a piece originally, now you're doing the refining with the editing. So enjoy that process on itself. Here's something. Whenever you're in a writing session, read what you just wrote while it's still fresh in your head. Don't edit at that time, nor even judge. Just feel what you wrote. Leave with the feelings of, oh, that was pretty good. Maybe jot down some notes where you will do it next time. But when you're done with the writing session, just read what you accomplished. More importantly, congratulate yourself on what you wrote. Writing is tough. It is a performance that is never mastered. Feel good and even satisfied. Only positive reflections and thoughts at that time. There is a time during editing to be persnickety, the word I like using. Early on, just do the major editing of it. Don't worry about specific things. That will be near the end on different editing processes. Following some of these practices will help you become more efficient and effective with your writing. But there are other things to keep in mind when you become stuck, when you have even a writing block. All right? Here are some things to consider. Confusion or impasses or tangents or dead ends, those happen. Creativity is not like producing something on an assembly line. Creativity is finicky in its own way. So sometimes we'll go off on tangents. Sometimes we'll just have a block on something. Again, don't personalize it. It is a writing block, not a writer's block. It's all right, except that creativity may be flowing one day and not the next. It's fine. Understand that as much as you throw yourself into your piece that you're writing, you are not your piece. You are much more than that. You are much more complete of a person, not just a writer. Here's something to keep in mind. Most people read by sub-verbalizing. Yeah, there are some people who can skim and scan things, but most people sub-verbalize to themselves when they're reading something. That may help you then when you are writing something, read your piece aloud afterwards, because that's what the people will be reading by sub-verbalizing to themselves. Okay. Most importantly, avoid any kind of self-put-downs, negative thinking, and especially becoming fearful. These will just send you farther down this blind alley. Develop the courage to do something I call being doggedly positive. It's easy to be positive when everything's going well. Can you be positive when things are not going so well? That's when you have to show your grit. That's when you have to be doggedly positive. Eagerness and perseverance come from both a broad and focused overall positivity about yourself and about the piece. Here's some things that will help in the long run. During off times away from writing, learn to do some creative thinking exercises and games and puzzles and riddles. These will help you train your brain and even rewire your brain. Here's one neat approach, is to change the medium of your writing. That is, write longhand, cursively. Find a nice pen or pencil or paper and start writing cursively, whether it's your notes or rewriting what you just wrote. Print precisely with your offhand. Changing the medium will give you a different angle on it. Pull out an old typewriter if you have one. Go use another computer. With these mediums that you do change, learn how to become sensual and even rhythmical again. There is a rhythm to the output of writing. And sometimes we're so wrapped up right in front of our computer that we lose touch with that sensuality and that rhythm of it. So find a nice pencil or pen, and on some nice paper, write cursively. You'll be amazed how much that frees you up. On the other side of the coin, when you are writing, avoid the temptations of giving up too soon, even for a simple writing session. Stay at the computer. Avoid the temptations of walking away or taking breaks, especially when you're 2 minutes into the writing session, making calls, going on your Facebook page. Sit and struggle for a while. When you do take a break in a writing session, do something physical and even mindless by yourself for only 3 minutes maximum. Walk around, stretch, do some yoga poses, juggle, doodle, clean something very mindless that you're still idling your concentration, if you remember that, and 3 minutes maximum. Concentration has an idle function. So make sure you just get up, stretch, then come right back to it. Whenever you are seemingly at an impenetrable block, follow these 5 steps or create your own 5 steps. Laugh, shudder, shake, shrug, vigorously clap your hands. Do something silly. Yell, scream, hum something. Do something physical. Then forgive yourself, shrug your shoulders, roll around your head, breathe. Thirdly, believe and actively affirm yourself, saying, I am a good writer. I am a creative writer. I'm just having an off day right now. I am a persistent writer. I see things through. Reaffirm all those things you do well. Sometimes when we have a writing block, we blow it out of proportion. That you just have a 2% impact on your overall writing right now during the block. You still have 98% of the things you're doing well. Focus on your strengths. Here's another step, and that is to step back metaphorically and look at your piece from a different angle. Sometimes you think you're on a flow and think on a direction, but it's just leading you nowhere. Did you ever feel that? Oh, I'm going nowhere with this piece. Step back and see if you can approach the same thing from a different angle. Sometimes stop struggling with it. Go on to your next segment or section or part of it. It just wasn't the right time for you to complete that section. If you skip ahead and start working on the subsequent section or part or chapter, then it may be putting in perspective what you needed to do on the section you were blanking on. Each time you successfully navigate through the maze of a blockage, remember that what worked and how you felt doing it. The Dalai Lama said the best way to solve a problem is going right through it. And you're going through it, and remember how it was done. I have a thing called a metaphor called a writing toolbox. Like a regular toolbox, every time you find a strategy or a technique that works, unleashing you, shaking you up, going back on track, remember that, write it down even, and put it in your pretend toolbox of it. Every time you successfully free yourself up from a writing block, you free up all your creativity too. Writing is tough work. Editing is tough work, but both of those can be very satisfying. Part of that is developing the wisdom from your writing blocks so that you can perform more consistently, prevent them from happening again, and back to enjoying the process and connecting with what you want to express. There is always a need for good writing, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, business writing, there's always a need for that. You are the instrument to share information, to share stories, to share perspectives. Remember that you are serving the reader, you're serving the audience. Hopefully this makes some sense. Go back and listen to these things again, because I'm sure a lot of this stuff maybe stimulated some ideas of what to do. Keep this or come back to this video, or if you want the full handout that I've been glancing at, feel free to email me at tomkubistant@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send it back to you in an attachment. So right on.